Hello, mic test. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sige. So, we'll first tackle the so we will first discuss your laboratory. Okay, so as you have seen naman siguro sa wait, I will share my screen. Wait. Ayan. So previously, ang aton nga which is uh, advanced math, no? Advanced Engineering Mathematics for ECE. So before, wala ni siya sang laboratory, but since ni siya, gin-revise ang curriculum naton, so nag-add kita sa laboratory for this subject. So one of the purpose ng laboratory naton is for you to familiarize the use of mathematical equations using a software. So we have here MATLAB software nga naka embed. So i-embed na siya sa aton nga lecture with the advanced math. Okay? So basic lang kita, ma-basic lang kita sa software because we don't have a licensed software for this one. Pero may ara kita sang crack version. I think ara sa resources naton. So ara siya sa sa references naton, this one. So we have also MATLAB online na web app. So amo ni siya ang online na MATLAB na application. So sa mga wala gid sang high-end laptop or PC or computer, you may use the online MATLAB na web app para sa inyong exercises. But since limited lang aton nga resources. So ang ako na lang nga himuon is I want you to sign up for a certificate sa inyong laboratory. So for your laboratory, you need to submit a certificate. Amo ni siya, MATLAB on-ramp. So this is a simple. May simulation siya. Okay, so may simulation siya. So you just need to create an account, matlab.mathworks.com. Kinahanglan mo lang is laptop, or PC and internet connection. So this is online training. Diri ni siya sa matlabacademy.mathworks.com. So if you open this one, so gin-draft ko lang ang aton nga what you call this one, instruction, a procedure. So this is self-paced. Free ni siya. So matapos ni siya within 2 hours. Okay, but you need to submit your certificate. So muna ni siya inyong laboratory output for this second sem. Okay, so we will focus on lecture na. You want to try this one? There. So you have an overview, commands. Yung commands natin is nandito rin sa ano, sa module 1. This is the introduction to using MATLAB. So this is by Eric Pesley, one of the professor sa Department of Engineering no, sa Oxford, sa University of Oxford. Okay. So this is his documentation. So we will use this one as reference. Okay. So you can use this as your guide, no? Because you have some exercises later on that you need to check. Okay? So you have some exercises na isolve mo siya mathematically, and then you need to prove or you need to check your answers using MATLAB software. Okay? So muna siya. Muna siya itong sa lecture natin. But some exercises, wala man siya required gid nga checking. Okay? Wala siya required gid nga checking. May iban lang which is applicable sa aton MATLAB software. So you have your commands here. So you need to start your module. So at least I think we have ilan siya. So you can do this if you have time. So you can finish this one within 2 hours, no? Kung dire-diretso. Okay, so simulation and virtual software or online software is Arimandi. Arimandi mismo sa module course na ni sa self-paced online course natin. So you need to register for your account sa MATLAB sa mathworks.com and then try to access this one, our course sa MATLAB on-ramp nga course. This is for your laboratory output na. Okay, so if you can remember sa aton nga what you call this one, sa aton nga laboratory during your first year, the same man siya. Okay, so you have the same graphical user interface with your Python. Diba? Tanda niya yung GUI natin sa Python. So the same lang ni siya. Okay, so if you input some numerical value, so automatically give na siya sang output man. Okay, so let's say 1 plus 1. Ayan. So answer niya is 2. So simple lang ni siya. So it's just a matter of input and output. Okay. But sa inyo nga go along with your guide here, so you have some complex numbers na. Then matrices. So this is the last part of our lecture na sa matrices. But the first part will be complex numbers. So we have some imaginary numbers here, which will be tackled. I think pwede to siya siguro i-pisan sa mo for your lecture. Okay, so for your laboratory, so try to study this one. This is just your guide, no? Okay, this is just your guide. But if you have a laptop nga gusto niyo mag-install sang MATLAB software, then you can download naman. Okay, so ara naman sa aton nga references. I think ari there is wala. We check learning materials. Wala. So just PM me. I will send the link no sang aton nga MATLAB na software para ma-install niyo siya sa inyong laptop if you want. But you can also use this one yung sa web app natin, which is very efficient naman. And you can work with anything you like dito. The same lang man na siya sa aton nga MATLAB. Okay, so if you want to check, let's open the MATLAB. So this is 2018 version pa. So muna siya naka-install sa aton nga laboratory diri sa Dalom sa school. Galing kay wala kita permit. So same lang ni siya, amo ni siya ang aton nga you call this one, amo ni siya aton nga interface sa MATLAB software mismo. So if you take a look sa web app, so it's just the same. Okay? So the same lang ni siya. Yan. So pinagkaiba lang nila is syempre ang imo nga result will be mas madasig kung marami kang commands na in-input. So mas madasig siya mag process compare sa online. Sa online mahulat ka pa sang result sa imo nga input na data. So let's close this one. So amo ni siya inyo gamiton, amo ni siyang magamit ninyo once nga nag-start ka mo diri sa self-paced online course. So you will learn how commands, basic commands. Then yung desktop editor, so amo na ni siya ang online. And so you can use this one later on sa inyong exercises. Then of course you will have project. So lahat ng concepts nga na-learn nyo with these modules sa course. Ayan. So your deadline for this one will be at the end of semester. So siguro mga 1 month matapos yun ni siya. 2 hours lang iya duration. Maximum of 2 hours matapos na ni siya. Okay. So let's take a look with our stop sharing. Let's take a look for our module 2. So our modules, so this is already for reproduction. So ayan. So I created this module during my part-time sa CAPS, but instead for ECE, for electrical. So the same lang, the same course or the same topics ang aton nga. By the way, na-check yung aton nga course syllabus. Have you checked our course syllabus? So if not, try to check that one para mabalaan nyo ang aton nga course outline for the whole semester. Okay. So for our topic today, so we will have the definition, theorems, forms, and operations of complex numbers. And so yung course description natin is nandito. So this is for the Advanced Engineering Mathematics for ECE. And so we will discuss some topics and applications in advanced courses. So we will study complex numbers, complex variables, Laplace and inverse Laplace transforms, power series, and Fourier series. Then we have Fourier transforms, Z transforms, power series solutions of ordinary differential equations. Then we also have partial differential equations and numerical methods in engineering. Okay, so for this case, I think the maximum learning time here is 4 hours. So prerequisite natin for this course is differential equations. So sino previously nyo DE na subject last semester? May I know kung sino inyong differential equation subject? Sino inyo teacher sad to? Sang DE nyo nga subject?
Sir Shane.
Si Sir Shane, sir.
Si Sir Bildia. Okay. So let's start, no? Si Sir Bildia inyo nga DE. Okay lang. So many engineering problems can be molded or can be modeled investigated and solved by functions of a complex variable. So for simpler problems, some acquaintance with complex numbers in space. This is true for simpler electric circuits and mechanical vibrating systems. So for more complicated problems in heat, conduction, fluid flow, electrostatics, etc. So one needs the theory of complex analytic functions, briefly, which we call complex analysis. So here, in our first module or in our second module, for first topic now for our lecture, we will discuss the following. So we will define the complex numbers, then apply the theorems on complex numbers. Then, of course, describe the forms of complex numbers, illustrate the Argand's diagram, and apply the four fundamental operations of complex numbers. So I hope you can finish this one. Still have 1 hour. Less than an hour now. So indicative content. In this module, we will discuss the different forms and theorems that can be applied in solving complex numbers. So we will study how the Argand diagram is used when representing complex numbers. So of course, with the use of coordinate system, then identify natin yung fundamental operations. So we have addition, subtraction, division, and multiplications of complex numbers. But first, we need to define what is a complex number. Okay, so a complex number is a combination of real and imaginary numbers. So the square root of a negative number is what we call an imaginary number, wherein the imaginary unit denoted as J or I. Okay, sa MATLAB, it can be denoted as I or J. Okay, so not a variable J and I, but a unit. Okay, so the form of J raised to M, where M is an integer, either odd or even. So we have these principles or rules. Okay, so if J raised to M, where M is even powers of J, then you will have a positive or negative 1. Positive or negative 1. So this is a real number. But once na yung power mo is odd number, yung power mo, your answer would be positive or negative imaginary number. Okay, so these are the basic principle. Pag even ang imong power sa imong imaginary, then you will have a positive or negative real number. Pag even naman, we have positive or negative imaginary number. So it depends on the sign. Hindi ka maka-negative or positive. Okay, so always take note of your sign. So first we have the theorems on complex numbers. So let's say if x plus jy is equals to 0, then x is equals to 0 and y is equals to 0. So for example, we have here to solve the angles theta and alpha of the following. Okay, so for here we have, wait, where's my, wait. Ayan. Ayan. So for here we have cosine 2 theta minus sine squared theta plus j cosine squared alpha. So this one, in this case, this is our imaginary. Okay, this is our imaginary part, and this is our real part. So I want you to review your trigonometric identities for this case. Okay, and then for this case, we have cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta, so equivalent is equals to 0. If we take the trigonometric identities of this one, we can have cosine 2 theta. Okay, we have cosine 2 theta, which is equivalent to cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta, all over equal to 0. So in this case, we use the trigonometric identities. I think this is a double angle identity for this one. And if we transfer this cosine sa kabila, transpose natin, then you will have 2 theta is equals to arc cosine. Diba? Transpose natin yung cosine sa kabila, magiging arc cosine. Then, arc cosine of 0 is 90 degrees. So therefore, you have the angle of 90 degrees divided by 2, which is 45 degrees. Ito na yung answer mo. And, tama. For the cosine naman, for the j cosine squared alpha, ito, which is equal to 0. So meaning, gin-equate natin siya. These two parts, ito, saka ito, in-equate natin sa 0. Okay. Saka ito. Yung real part, saka imaginary part, in-equate natin sa 0. So for cosine squared alpha is equal to 0, that is equal to cosine alpha is equal to 0. Then transpose natin yung cosine again, which is equal to 90 degrees. So the same lang din. Okay, so another example, we have here our real part and we have here our imaginary part. Ayan. So this is 1 minus tan squared theta. So mabase kita sa diri nga principle. Oh. So meaning ang imong real part, pag imaginary part, equate mo siya sa 0. Yan. Okay? Equate natin siya sa 0. So 1 minus tan squared theta is equal to 0. That is, transpose natin yung 1 dito sa kabila. Magiging tan squared theta is equal to 1. Then tan theta is equal to square root of 1. Square natin both sides. Okay? Square natin both sides. Then cancel out yung square dito. So that is tan theta is equal to square root of 1. And of course, lipat natin yung tangent. That will become theta is equal to arctan of 1. And obviously, your arctangent of 1 is equal to 45 degrees. So we have some shortcuts later on with the use of calculator. Pero hindi ko nadala yung calculator ko. Kaya next time na lang. And then the same with this one. So with the use of trigonometric identities again. So this is negative now. Okay, so follow the sign. So minus kita dire, minus j, square root of 1 minus sine squared theta. So we also have negative here. Negative square root of 1 minus sine squared alpha is equals to 0. Then use the trigonometric identities to get the negative cosine alpha, which is equal to 0. Or that is equal to cosine, positive cosine alpha is equal to 0. Then transpose natin again, which is arc cosine of 0 is equal to 90 degrees. Ayan. So dapat familiar na kamo sa inyong trigonometric identities ha for this case. But still open notes man gihapon because we don't have face-to-face. So it's okay. Familiarize nyo lang. But kung mag face-to-face na, close notes na. So dapat lagpat. Lagpat nyo ang identities natin. Then the same, no? We have here for the next example, that is cosine for 2 theta minus sine for 2 theta plus j. So this is your real part and this is your imaginary part. Then equate natin sa 0. So amo ni siya yung x, again, amo ni siya yung y. So equate mo ni siya sa 0. So therefore, for our first part, you have cosine for 2 theta minus sine for 2 theta is equal to 0. Then expand natin. Okay, expand natin, so that is cosine 2 or cosine squared 2 theta plus sine squared 2 theta multiplied by itself. But in this case, negative ang sign, so you need to multiply it by different sign para maging negative. Pero ang exponent natin for this cosine and sine would be added. Yan. Then, simplify. This one, equivalent niya is 1. Diba? Trigonometric identities again. So, equivalent niya is 1. Then, copy. So, cosine squared 2 theta minus sine squared 2 theta is equal to 0. This is for your real part pa lang. Okay. Now, for this case, we have cosine squared 2 theta, or that is cosine 4 theta. Ito, trigonometric identities again. This one. We will have cosine 4 theta is equals to 0. Then transpose again. We have transpose natin dito. So 4 theta is equals to arc cosine 0. Or 4 theta is equals to 90 degrees. Arc cosine of 0 is 90 degrees. And theta, divide both sides by 4. 90 divided by 4. We have 22.5 degrees. Okay. For the other side, this is for the imaginary part. So you have positive cosecant squared alpha minus 1. So obviously, lipat natin dito yung 1. You have cosecant squared alpha is equals to 1. Okay. Then square root natin both sides. We have cosecant alpha is equals to square root of 1. Okay. Then take note, you have your trigonometric identities here again, which is equivalent to cosecant alpha. That is 1 over sine alpha, or cosecant of theta is equals to 1 over sine theta. All over by 1, square root of 1 is 1. Then, of course, simplify natin. So that will become sine alpha is equals to 1, or that is arcsine of 1, which is 90 degrees. So more on trigonometry dito sa first part. Then second theorem natin. So we have our second theorem. If x sub 1 plus j y sub 1 is equals to x sub 2 plus j y sub 2, then x sub 1 natin is equal to x sub 2 and y sub 1 is equal to y sub 2. So this is a matter of substitution, or parang equal lang sila. So meaning, ito yung partner niya, x sub 1 is equals to x sub 2. Then jy sub 1 is equals to jy sub 2. Yan. Okay. So for this case, we have some examples here. So solve for x and y of the following equations. Okay. So nakalatag naman din ang step by step, no? Whole process natin. So x plus jy squared, quantity squared, is equals to 2 plus j4. So you have here your x sub 1, ito, and you have here your x sub 2. Then you have here your y sub 1, you have here your y sub 2. So equate lang natin. Okay? But for this case, sige, try natin. So for x plus jy squared is equals to 2 plus j4. Ito yung equation natin. Okay? So for this one, in-expand natin siya. That is x squared plus j 2xy plus jy quantity squared. In-expand natin to. Okay? Expand siya. Ito na. Which is equal to 2 plus j4 pa rin. Okay? Now, for this case, take note that j raised to 2 is equals to negative 1. Okay? So, even ang aton nga exponent. So, therefore, it is a real number, which is negative 1. Okay? So, substitute natin siya, yung j squared, dito sa equation natin. Okay? So, x squared plus j 2xy minus ito. Dito siya. So we have positive, di ba? Positive j y quantity squared. So this is j squared times y squared. But take note, j squared is negative 1. So therefore, you have negative 1 times y squared. Or that is negative y squared. Ito. Then equal to 2 plus j4. And then, what will happen for this one? Pwede natin i-simplify. Combine terms natin. So that is x squared minus y squared quantity plus j 2xy. Okay? So, kinonbine natin yung real part dito sa first part natin. So, ito real part to eh. X squared tsaka negative y squared. So, real part plus the imaginary part. then equal to 2 plus J4. For this case, we can now have this, you can now follow the second theorem, which is x sub 1 is equals to x sub 2. So in-expand muna natin, then simplify, and then we create an equation. For this case, x sub 1 is equals to x sub 2. So for x sub 1 natin, ito, that is x squared plus y, x squared minus y squared is equals to x sub 2, which is 2. Ito siya. Then for the second naman, second part natin or second equation, we have y sub 1 is equals to y sub 2. That is j 2xy equal to j4. Okay, so we can have two equations for this case. Okay, then we have to substitute later on. So first, tingnan natin yung equation number 1, yung x sub 1 muna natin. So that is x squared minus y squared is equals to 2. Then for our second part, ito yung, this is your x sub 1 is equals to x sub 2. Then this is your y sub 1 is equals to y sub 2. Ito. Yan. Okay, so for our first part dito, so we need first to define what is y para makuha natin yung value ng x tsaka y for this case. Okay? So for this one, we have two equations to unknown. If you can remember, two equations to unknown. So this one, for our second part, that is y equals y sub 1 is equals to y sub 2. So cancel out natin yung j, of course, imaginary. So mabili na lang is 2xy is equals to 4. Or y is equals to 4 over 2x. Transpose natin. Okay, transpose natin or just divide both sides by 2x. Okay. So y is equals to 4 over 2x. Or simply, y is equals to 2 over x. So 4 divided by 2x is equals to 2 over x. So we have your first equation, second equation. Okay. So ano yung first equation natin? So meron na tayong y, value ng y. So pwede na natin itong i-substitute dito sa first equation natin, which is equal to x squared minus 2 over x quantity squared equals to 2. So we multiply the whole equation by x squared para ma-cancel out yung iba. And then we apply natin yung quadratic equation to reduce this, to reduce your equation. No? So we apply the quadratic equation. So that is x raised to 4 minus 4 is equals to x squared, or that is, expand natin. So x squared, quantity squared, minus 2x squared minus 4 is equals to 0. Then you will have your quadratic equation now. That is x squared is equals to 2 plus minus square root of, ano gani yung quadratic equation? Anong formula ng quadratic equation, if you can still remember? B. If you have here your x, so this is your A. Ito yung A mo. Ito yung B mo. Ito yung C mo. Okay. So your A is x squared. Your B is negative 2. Then your C is negative 4. That is square root of, or B plus minus square root of B squared minus 4AC. Tama. Over 2A. Ito yung formula mo for quadratic equation. Okay, so your B here is, tama ba? 2. So you have your 2 plus minus square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 multiplied by your A mo is 1. Of course, this is just a variable. Times C, which is your negative 4 over all by 2A. Okay, so your 2 times A, your A mo is 1. And then, if you get your square root now, if you get your answer now, that is 2 plus 4.472 over 2, then squared natin both sides para ma-cancel out. Makuha mo yung x, that is 1.8. Now, once makuha mo yung 1.8, substitute natin dito sa equation 2 yung x. Or that is y is equal to 2 over 1.8. So your y now is equal to 1.111 and your x now is equal to 1.8. Okay. Can you guys follow? Questions so far?
Okay na, sir.
Okay. So another example we have here. So we have 2x plus j3y. So take note lang na i-separate yung ang i-separate yung ang real part kag sa imaginary part. Okay, para hindi ka maglasa. For this case, we have 2x plus j3y quantity squared minus 6 minus j12 is equals to 0. Okay, so we have here our first part. Then we have here our second part. So transpose natin dito sa kabila. So you will have 2x plus j3y quantity squared equal to negative 6 mo magiging positive, negative j12 mo magiging positive. Transpose natin. Okay, so this is your x sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 1, y sub 2. Then expand. That is 4x squared plus j12xy plus j3y quantity squared is equal to 6 plus j12. And again, j squared is equal to negative 1. So lipat lang dito or substitute natin dito. So you will have 4x squared plus j12xy minus 9, hindi na positive. Kasi yung j squared dito magiging negative 1. 9y squared equal to 6 plus j12. Then, simplify. You have 4x squared minus 9y squared. This is your real part, imaginary part. Real part, imaginary part. Okay, so you have 4x squared minus 9y squared is equals to 6. This is your equation number 1. This is for your x sub 1 and x sub 2. Then this is for your y sub 1 and y sub 2. The j12xy is equals to j12. So for this case, we solve for the equation 2. That is 12xy. Sal out yung j again. Then is equals to 12, or y will become equal to 12 over 12x, or that is 1 over x. So this is your equation 2. For this one, substitute na natin for our equation 1, yung equation 2. So that is 4x squared minus 9. Yung y natin is 1 over x. 9 times 1 over x quantity squared equal to 6. Okay? So that is 4x raised to 4 minus 9 equals to 6x squared. So you multiply both sides by x squared. Dito sa side na to, tsaka dito sa left side, tsaka sa right side. Multiply natin both sides by x squared. Then again, reduce to quadratic equation. That is 4x squared quantity squared minus 6x squared minus 9 is equals to 0. So that is b plus minus square root of, and so on. So this is your using quadratic formula. So you have your a, b, and c. That is b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over by 2a. Then you will have 6 plus minus 13.416. Then we use the positive side. Ito. Plus lang ating ginamit. I-square root mo man siya gihapon. That is 6 plus 13.416 all over by 8. Then take the square root. You will have your x. Now that is 1.558. Now, you will have now your x. So substitute natin dito again. Dito sa equation number 2. So that is 1 over 1.558. Therefore, you will have your y now is 0.642. Yan. Okay. Questions? Clarifications? Clear? Understand? Intindihan nyo guys? Just let me know kung din nga part ang wala nyo intindihan. We will balik natin. Okay? Then you have your example letter C. So the same process. Okay, so the same process lang to. But take note, we apply here the trigonometric identities. Yan, so the same process lang. Then of course, your theorem number 3. This is your third theorem. That is, if x plus jy, quantity, times x plus jy is equals to 0, then your x plus jy is equals to 0, or x plus jy is equals to 0. Since the product is 0, therefore the multiplicand and multiplier are also 0. So 0, 0, 0. We don't have an example for this one, but we can apply later on this third theorem sa mga later examples natin. Okay, next we have forms of complex numbers. So what are the forms? So we have rectangular form, polar form, and trigonometric form, and also exponential form. So this form can be produced, no? So pwede siya maging, pwede natin siyang i-convert from rectangular form to polar form, or polar form to rectangular form, trigonometric form to polar form or rectangular form, and vice versa, as well as the exponential form. But always take note with the parameters. Okay, will have your real part here and your imaginary part. While in the polar, take note that we have a angle. Okay, so we have the bar angle. So this is your magnitude or amplitude, or this is your real part in our case. Then you have your imaginary part, or that this will be your your angle based on trigonometric form. Okay, so for the trigonometric form, we have here parameters. So we have r, this is your magnitude or amplitude. Then the angle here depends on the cosine of theta plus minus j sine theta, or what we ginatawag natin ni siya nga RCJS theta or RCIS theta. Okay. R, C cosine, then J or I, that is your imaginary unit, sine theta, RCIS or RJS theta. Then for the exponential form, so we use yung E dito, nasa calculator nyo. Wala akong calculator ngayon. Your R is your real part naman, or your magnitude, the same. Then in ito na yung alpha E na nasa calculator nyo, raised to positive or negative J theta. But take note that the angle here in exponential form is in radians. So be careful with your angle. Sa exponential, radians, pag trigonometric, degrees. Okay, take note for that one. So may mga shortcut kita dire sa calculator. I-ano ko na lang galing siguro sa inyo next meeting. Wala ko di sang calculator na dala. Although may ari ko di sa cellphone, but sige. Okay, so we will go to Argand's diagram. Ayan. So Argand diagram, so this is a coordinate system showing the real and imaginary axes for the representation of a complex number. So for example, we have 3 plus J4. So saan yung 3 plus J4 dito? So with the use of forms of complex numbers, let's say for this one, we have trigonometric form, or we have a polar form. No? We have a polar form for this one. So this is in, ano ni siyang form? This is in rectangular form, di ba? So we can convert it to polar form para makuha natin ang iyang degree. Okay? So for here, figure A is the Argand's diagram of rectangular form of a complex numbers 3 plus J4. wherein yung x natin is 3 and then yung y natin is 4. Okay? And then yung z is the resultant, or this is your rectangular form of complex numbers, that is 3 plus j4. Okay? Then for your figure B naman, so it shows the polar form of complex number, that is z is equals to r bar angle of theta. But the same ang gihapon, no? We have x is equals to 3 and your y here is equals to 4. Yung pinagkaiba lang dito is yung resultant or yung magnitude natin. Okay? So for this case, we can use the Pythagorean theorem para makuha natin yung magnitude. Diba? That is 4 squared plus 3 squared plus 4 squared, then take the square root. Or this case, you can have your magnitude of 5. Ito na yung R mo dito. Ito na yung magnitude mo, 5 units. But what is the angle? So of course, you can use the Pythagorean theorem again. That is the arc tangent of y over x. That is 4 over 3. Or your angle is 53.13 degrees. Okay, so therefore, the equivalent value of rectangular form na complex number na 3 plus j4 is just equal to the polar form, that is 5 bar angle of 53.13 degrees. So equal lang ni sila. So amo ni siya imo nga rectangular form, amo ni siya ang imo nga polar form. Okay, so you will use this equation to convert from rectangular form to polar form. Okay. So examples we have here. Convert 6 minus j3 to polar form, exponential form, and trigonometric form. Yan. So this is in rectangular form. So convert natin siya into polar form, exponential form, and trigonometric form. So for using the Argand's diagram, so we have your x is 6 and then your y is negative 3. So therefore, yung x natin is going to the right kasi positive 6 siya. Ito. And then yung y naman natin is negative. So therefore, pababa siya. Negative 3. 1, 2, 3. So ito siya. Okay, so take note of the sign ha. Now, first convert natin muna sa polar form. Okay, sa polar form muna. So with the use of Pythagorean theorem, we can easily convert it to polar form. So first, we need to identify the magnitude. Okay, so for the magnitude, we have square root of 6 squared plus quantity negative 3 squared, or that is equal to 6.708 units. And then for your angle, arctangent of y over x, or that is 3 over 6, or that is negative 26.57 degrees. So take note that this is in degrees. Okay, your angle in polar form is in degrees. But you need to convert this one into radian para makuha mo siya sa exponential form. Okay, so take note that sa polar form, sa exponential form, kag sa trigonometric form, yan. So we use the same magnitude, r, r, r. Yung pinagkaiba lang dito is yung angle, which is in degrees. Yung angle dito is in radians. And then dito naman with the use of cosine and sine. Of course, the angle here is in degrees. Okay? Yun lang yung take note nyo. Now going back, so the answer now for the angle in radians is negative 0.464 rad or radians. Therefore, for your polar form, this is your polar form. So 6 minus j3 is just equal to 6.708. This is your magnitude. Angle or bar angle of negative 26.57 degrees. Then for your exponential form, just copy the magnitude, that is 6.708. E raised to negative j followed by your angle in radians, that is negative j 0.464. Now for your trigonometric form, you have 6 minus J3 is equal to 6.708. Again, this is your magnitude. CJS, negative 26.57 degrees. Or just equal to 6.708. Cosine, negative 26.57 minus sine, minus J sine negative 26.57. Sino na siya? Okay. So much better if you can use the CJS na lang or CIS then followed by the angle. Ito. Yan. Okay. Yung positive or negative pala dito, it will depend sa sa angle. So since this is negative, so it will become negative J sine angle. Yan. Okay. How about this one? How about polar form to rectangular form, exponential form, trigonometric form? So the same ang gihapon, no? We still use the trigonometric identities for this case. Trigonometry. Okay. So sa katawa lang to. Okay, sa katawa. So you have your magnitude. So this is your magnitude, that is 6. Then yung angle mo is negative 30 degrees. So meaning, pabalik. Okay? Kay pakanto dire is 90, di ba? 90 degrees to. So yung negative 30 mo is obviously dito, pabalik. Gets? Okay? Negative clockwise tayo, negative. Pag positive, counterclockwise. So you have your X and Y. Okay? So yung Y mo is dito. Dito na side sa baba. Then yung X mo is dito sa taas. So this is your X component. This is your Y component. Okay? So naka-reflect lang to. Again, going back sa physics, sa vectors. So isolate the triangle. Isolate natin yung triangle. So you have your negative 30 here, your X here, your Y here, and then you have your magnitude here, that is 6. So katawa. So you have your hypotenuse. Kunin natin yung adjacent. So that is cosine. Okay? Cosine is, I'm not sure if you can still remember, the SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. This is sine is equals to opposite over hypotenuse. And then for the ka naman, that is cosine adjacent over hypotenuse. And then for TOA, that is tangent, that is O opposite over adjacent. Yeah, that is your SOHCAHTOA. Okay. So for this case, we solve for X, that is the adjacent. So cosine of angle is equal to X over 6. So that is X is equals to 6 cosine negative 30. Transpose na natin. That is X equals to 5.196. 6 cosine of negative 30. So ito na yung X mo. So you have your X now. Now for the Y, we can have, since this is a opposite, so opposite mo is yung facing the side that is facing the angle. So you will have your opposite here. Okay, so sine theta is equals to Y over 6. That is Y is equals to 6 sine negative 30 degrees. So your Y now is negative 3. Therefore, your answer for the rectangular form of this polar, that is 6 angle of negative 30 degrees, is just equal to, saan yung, natin yung X? Ito, 5.196 minus, take note, negative 3 tayo, minus J3. Yung Y component natin always with the imaginary. Okay, so that is negative J3. Yan. Then of course, you can have your magnitude here. So you convert this, convert lang natin itong degrees na to into radian form. That is negative 0.524. Ito, copy lang. Then you have your trigonometric form. So that is 6 CJS negative 30 degrees. Okay. So can you guys understand now? Can you guys know how to convert now? From polar to rectangular, rectangular to polar, exponential, trigonometry. Just follow the rules or the process, no, on how to convert this one. So how about this one? Third example. This is in exponential form. 5e raised to j 0.725. So for this case, just convert, no? Convert lang natin yung radians into radians into degrees. So that is, multiply lang natin by 180 over pi radians or pi rad or pi. That is 180 over pi. So makancel out yung radians natin dito. That is equal to 41.54 degrees. Now you can have your trigonometric form, that is 5 CJS of 41.54. 41.54. Or you can have your polar form. Kasi may degrees na tayo eh. That is 5 angle of positive naman to. So 41.54. But how about rectangular form? With the use of polar form, you can get the rectangular form. Tama? So you can have your rectangular form with the use of polar form. Para mas madali. Okay? Then you apply the Pythagorean theorem. Yan. So simple lang. Or in this case, you can have your 3.742 plus j 3.316. So this is your rectangular form, the answer. This is your polar form. And then this is your trigonometric form. Vice versa, pwede siya magamit ng rectangular form kung polar form. Okay na? You guys understand? Do wala may nagkagagiho ha?
Yes, sir.
Tulog pa ako mga student. Okay. So how about this one? So the same process, no? So this is in a trigonometric form. Convert natin from to rectangular to polar and to exponential. So trigonometric, the same lang. So trigonometric, then you have your polar automatically. Then with the use of polar, you can solve for rectangular form. Then for the exponential, just convert the angle into radians. Then given naman yung magnitude mo, that is 10. Then you will have your exponential form of j, your 30 degrees in radians. That is 0.524. Yan. Okay, madali lang to guys. Now for the operations of complex numbers, let's finish this one. So first, to add, no, or subtract two or more complex numbers in a rectangular form, add or subtract the real part to real part and imaginary part to imaginary part. Simple lang, di ba? So let's say you have three given equations. No? You have 3 plus j6, 4 plus j4, 8 minus j7. So hambal dire, i-add ta ang real part kag real part kag imaginary part kag imaginary part. So therefore you can have 3 plus 4 plus 8. Then you will have your ilan siyang 15. Then for imaginary part naman, add lang natin 6 plus 4 plus negative 7, or that is j3. So this is now your answer. Okay, so i-combine lang natin yung real part tsaka yung imaginary part. Yan. So the same process with subtraction. Okay, so same process with subtraction. Yan. Ito, same process with subtraction. But how about with with complex number that is not rectangular form? Sabi, you have here polar form, rectangular form, then again polar form. So what you will do is convert first these complex numbers to a rectangular form, and then saka mo i-apply ang process, ang operation on how to add and subtract the complex number. Yun lang yun. Convert lang natin into rectangular form. Okay? So in this case, yung polar form mo na to will be equal to 2.589 plus j 1.5. Then for this one, you have 4.698 minus j 1.710. Then add the real part, then add the imaginary parts. Then you will have your answer. Yan. So convert lang. Okay? So this is applicable only for rectangular form. Okay? This is applicable only for rectangular form. So kapag naka-exponential form, trigonometric form, polar form, you need to convert it to rectangular form first para ma-add mo siya or ma-subtract ang complex numbers. How about multiplication? So for the following rules, in multiplications of complex numbers, so rule 1, the product of two or more complex numbers in polar form is just equal to the product of their magnitude and the sum of their directions or their angle. Yan. Sa multiplication naman, this is in polar form. Take note, this is in polar form. Okay? So this is the simplest way to multiply the complex numbers in polar form because i-multiply mo lang niya ang mga magnitude nila. Okay? So i-multiply mo lang ang magnitude nila. Then ang ilang angle or ang ilang direction, i-plus mo lang. Okay? But if in case naka-rectangular form sila, na let's say hindi na ako mag-convert sa polar form, kimaawat, which is very parang may mali. So sa ako niya, mas nahupusan ko sa polar form. So i-convert ko na lang ang rectangular form to polar form. Tapos multiply ko lang ilang magnitude, kag i-add ila direction. Just like this one. Example for this one. You have here your rectangular form multiplied by a polar form. So what you will do is convert natin to into polar form. Or in this case, that will be 5.831 angle of 30.96 degrees multiplied by 6 angle of 30 degrees. So multiply ko lang niya is 6 or yung multiply lang natin dito is 5.831 tsaka 6 which is equal to 34.986. Then yung angle nila, i-add lang natin 30.96 plus 30 degrees or that is 60.96 degrees. Tapos na. Diba? But if you want to in rectangular form, i-convert mo siya you will use this equation for rectangular form. Or this applies to theorem number 3 of the complex numbers. Then rule number 3, so convert all complex numbers to polar form and apply rule 1. Ito lang yung basic rule. Yung rule number 1 lang talaga yung tatandaan nyo. Okay, so if you know how to convert rectangular or any forms of a complex number into polar form, then you can simply apply the multiplication rule number 1. Yan. For this case, we have rectangular, then polar, then exponential. I-convert na lang natin siya sa polar tanan. Then we use the multiplication. But take note, in this case, tingnan nyo addition to. So i-add muna natin to before natin i-multiply dito. So for how to add? So convert natin to into rectangular. Diba? So in this one, rectangular natin to, then rectangular natin to. Then apply natin yung rule of addition sa rectangular. I-add lang natin yung real part, tapos i-add din natin yung mga imaginary parts. Then, once nga rectangular na siya, you will have to convert it into polar para ma-multiply natin dito. So for this case, ko-convert din natin to into polar, yung rectangular form na to. Then yung sum nito, ko-convert din natin sa polar. Para magiging polar times polar, then you will apply the rule number 1. So the same with this example. So you have here rectangular times rectangular multiplied by plus minus of this rectangular form. So need to convert it to polar, then convert it to polar. Then this one, i-add mo muna yung real part tsaka imaginary part, and then convert natin into polar. So that's what, in that case, you can multiply these polar complex numbers with the use of rule number 1. Sige lang. How about division? So division, the same with the multiplication, but different in the direction, no? So sa division, dinidivide lang natin yung magnitude again, pero yung direction natin or yung angle, sinasubtract natin. Sa multiplication niya, minamultiply yung magnitude, ina-add yung direction or angle. But in the division, sinasubtract yung angle. Okay? Yun lang yun. So, this applies for the polar. Polar form lang ang pinakasimple na paraan. Same with multiplication. Polar form din yung pinakamabilis na paraan para apply natin operations of multiplication and division. Pero sa addition or subtraction, you use the rectangular form of complex numbers. Yan. So try to study the examples for this case. Okay, questions before we end our discussion. I will stop sharing now.
Why naman, sir?
Sure ka mawala? Sure wala?
Medyo, sir.
Medyo. Sige, so I will give you your exercises. Try to solve it and submit by next week, March 8. Okay. Paano ba to? March, ano ngayon? March 1. Then submit nyo by March 8, 4 p.m. in due date. So maximum score nito is 150. You have 1 week to practice solving. So I will give your self-evaluation exercise. Lahat meron ng access sa LMS.
Yes, sir.
You guys have access sa Neo LMS?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if wala ng questions, so I leave to you the self-evaluation exercise for module 2. Then we will discuss again on Thursday the module 3 of our topic. If you have some questions or clarifications, then you can send sa ating group chat or you may PM me. And the recorded session for this discussion will be sent later on. I-send ko lang siya sa inyo. Okay? So that's it. Bye-bye and keep safe. See you around later siguro.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Thank you.